An energy drink with a beer.
Okay. You got your own Four Loko going.
We'll see. I don't respond well to either historically, so maybe they even out, or maybe this is a cocktail for explosive diarrhea. We'll see.
All right, and I'm also gonna qualify this with I'm so tired, dude. I slept like 2 hours last night, but I was like, I'm ready to do this with my buddy Ren.
That's fertile grounds for good potting. Potting?
I thought, maybe it would make it funnier.
Casting?
All right.
Oh, I'm already tempted to just deep dig into this sultry tone.
I think you should. I can't get down that low, so
that is.
I'm gonna do a little quick intro here. This is Ren Reed. Some people call him Renly, maybe.
So.
He's a good friend of mine. Used to be my boss. He's a great boss, and we both kind of make creative video stuff. And me and Ren love to joke around and have fun and bullshit. So, yeah, welcome, Ren. Thank you for coming on, dude.
Andy, it is a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you. I have actually seen you fairly frequently because I'm still in Vancouver, so I stop by the office once in a while to say hey to the old gang. But yeah, it was a blast working together. Sad we don't anymore, but life changes.
Yeah.
Here I am, unemployed.
3 years.
Available to podcast for as many hours as you need me because got no obligations.
Nice. Well, then the theme of the show is very Northwest oriented. So
okay.
Tell me kind of how you got here. I always remember because you're like, I was born here. But you're kind of a Californian at the same time, right?
Yeah. I mean, my formative years were California. I was born in Portland, but I think at the age of like 5, my dad took a job down in the Bay Area, East Bay, California, in a church. So I grew up actually in California through high school and even my first couple years of college, and then went down to LA. For my next couple years of college to pursue film and production at a school called the Zusa, like a Christian school, but actually had a really good film program, or so I thought at least, and kind of got pretty disillusioned with like paying a shit ton of money to learn how to do production because we were using like these old Panasonic cameras. They're like teaching you like 10 years on a 10-year delay, right? So all these like principles and practices, some of which are sort of fundamental and universal and still like solid to learn, but a lot of the gear and sort of the approaches were pretty like they just felt dated and stuff like I already kind of had a handle on. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to pay $50K a year to make this 60-year-old professor like a little PSA production, like
black and white.
Yeah, I'm gonna go study something else, something really lucrative. So I went and got an English degree. I wanted to build wealth the old-fashioned way through literature. So I transitioned to English as a major. Met a girl, followed her out to Alabama. Actually finished my degree out in Alabama. Yeah, long story, I won't get into that. Ended up moving back to California. And then she pursued law school up here in Portland, and that's when we moved up here to Portland.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to my hometown, technically.
Yeah, was it like a natural, you're like, I'm coming home, or was it more of just a job thing? Or
so she only applied to a handful of law schools, and one of which was Lewis and Clark. She was accepted there and a few others, and then I, at the time, had family still in this area, and so that kind of drew us up. They kind of cruelly moved like a month after we moved here, and I was like, thanks, see ya. Thought I was gonna have some like built-in community. Nope.
You got here and they're just like, peace out.
They got kind of sucked into the politics world and wanted to distance themselves from the Northwest, sadly. So, like many people, suffered some ruptures in the family because of fun politics stuff. So anyway, they're in Idaho now. And got a job with the Knowledge Coop pretty quickly. I had known one of the investors as like a family friend loosely from a while back, actually through Sawyer, another colleague of ours. And
we'll put a picture of him up.
Yeah, throw Sawyer up. I passed Sawyer's, by the way, the shop you referred to.
That's where I got these beers.
Yeah? Thank you, Sawyer. Wow. yeah, knew one of the part owners. I just texted him and saying like, hey, if you have any connections up here in Portland, I'm looking for some video work. And he's like, come by the office and meet the crew. And I was like, okay. And he anticipated me being prepared for a formal interview, but the way he had texted me did not sound formal. He's like, yeah, just come by and say hi. We'll talk through some ideas. And I walk in and there's like 10 people, the entire company around a conference table. Like, Ren, welcome. What do you got? I'm like, what do I got? I'm in a t-shirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you wearing like?
Oh yeah, I was like in this, not the Sauron shirt. But what do I got? I'm like, okay, I guess can I borrow your laptop? I'll throw like my YouTube channel up on the TV and show you guys these like asinine sketch comedy videos I've made with my brother in like middle school.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, the Coop team has dug up all of my skeletons on YouTube. So I'm good.
If people don't know, this is the company we worked at.
Sorry, Knowledge Coop was, yes, our common workplace. But anyway, they liked what they saw. They didn't really know what they were doing at the time, and they needed in-house video help. And so they brought me on for scraps pretty much. But since then, we built a pretty big content and creative team, and I have since departed, but wild ride there. Anyway, sorry, I went really deep into my journey to the Northwest again. But
I actually, I worked with you for 3 years, but I don't know that much about you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we never really talked past, have we? It's okay.
No, I like that. So like, and I'm going to ask you some really more wacky stuff in a second, but
hit me.
I said in a second.
Okay. Sorry.
But is there something like, this is a pretty easy question for me, but like, are you just like drawn to video? What was it about that medium that's always, or was it just aspects of it, or were you just always like drawn to filmmaking and that kind of stuff?
Well, I used to really like drawing, and I think that there is something in me that likes seeing something my brain pictured come to life tangibly. And I think that's why, when I was a kid, I really liked to draw, and I was like okay at it. I was really good at like copying things if I had a reference. But I kind of got frustrated by my inability to draw well. And like I probably could have pursued it and like learned, how to do it really well. Could never paint. But I had this like craving to like put the images and fantasies I had in my head into something that I could show other people. And I found with like video, once we got this like little, cheap point and shoot digital camera that had a video capability, I fell in love instantly. And luckily I had a bunch of friends and family members who were super ready and willing to like be goofy and act in little stories. And, my parents were very supportive. They'd always like play a dumb role in some little, short I had whipped up. So I just started using that camera and, iMovie on one of those old Emacs, those Mac spaceship looking computers.
It's like the Kool-Aid color.
Yeah. Ours was just like white. I was kind of bummed by that. I wanted one of like the orange.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of started learning the basics of, throwing footage together in a simple editor, and it just clicked, and I really loved it, and I just got addicted because you can kind of see your little vision come to life with really simple tools. And I miss those days when it was that simple, and you had like no real expectations on yourself. There was no like effects. I'm not trying to grade it. I'm not trying to have some excellent, cinematic masterpiece. I just wanted to get the story out. And that's kind of where I started with video. And I kind of subsequently fell in love with like photography too.
Okay. Some of the adjacent
stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And I only asked that because Ren is super talented. Like I have a lot of respect for him as a creator, and I consider myself pretty high polished, but like I can't even come close to like the stuff that you.
Oh, bullshit! That's bullshit.
I'm a more run and gun type of person. But
well, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot coming from you, really.
Yeah. No. And we made some fun stuff. You should check it out. Go online, go upline and see some. There's probably some stuff you can watch.
Certainly.
All right, I'm gonna get into some of this goofy stuff. So first of all, we can either start with the demon tree or with.
That's how I got here. I didn't even use Google Maps. I just smelled the demon tree and followed it.
My pitch is, it's not even a pitch. I want you to like give a little history and also like a PSA for people in this area, because like it's funny, but like these things are just crazy to me.
No, I'd say this should probably be America's top priority. In the upcoming presidential election, if your candidate does not mention the demon tree, then their priorities are out of whack. you gotta write into your state senators because come on, wake up, America. So yeah, let's take you back to the beginning. I think I probably encountered them or at least like acknowledged them before you did in my life. Maybe not.
I'm sure. Yeah.
We'll get to that. So I was fortunate enough in 2020 to purchase a home, my first home. It's not much. It's in Vancouver, Washington. Kind of a fixer-upper, kind of in between, right? Like nice enough to live in, and we're like, this is not disgusting, but beat up enough to be like, oh, we could maybe get some equity out of this. So it's like a little ranch home. Backyard is pretty big, but just like pure weeds overgrown, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 feet of just nasty grass in the whole thing. Front yard was pretty nasty too. So I took it upon myself to kind of landscape it. I got really into this idea of shaping the backyard into a space. That's kind of like, again, sorry, I got like a burp working out. That desire in me to like visualize something and then like make it happen. Like I love doing that. So
Same principle.
Translated to landscaping. And so I started kind of plotting out what I wanted to do with this like bare, plain backyard. So step one is what I would do is I would take my lawnmower and I would sort of just mow this field into shapes.
Okay. It's
I'd
like
kinda
a fruit roll-up.
Kinda, yeah. I'd like shape where I want the future lawn to be. I'd shape where I want like a patio to be, so I could kind of like see it in the grass.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'd mow this like weed patch pretty much, and what I noticed a few days after I mowed is that certain little plants were like sprouting up really quick above the other stuff that I had mowed. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I went to examine. There was a few of them, and I bent down, and they were like this bright green little, sprout with some leaves. And I was like, oh, that's kind of pretty. And plucked them out, threw them to the side. Next day, there's like maybe 20 of them. I'm like, my gosh, those things are really, dense out here. I wonder what that is. And I noticed as I plucked them out, an odor coming from them. I was like, that is really distinct. And I thought about it. I'm like, that smells exactly like Taco Bell beef. Or if it's beef. What's the percentage they stick on that? Like 80%?
I think it's 100, but
okay, we'll call it beef. It smelled exactly like Taco Bell beef. I'm not kidding. You can test this yourself. You'll testify. I'm like, that's very odd. And I start noticing how frequently these things are popping up. Then, to my horror,
can I just ask you something real
please,
quick? Sorry
please,
to interrupt.
Please.
Does it only stink after you pick it? Or
it has a similar aroma. Well, I'll get there.
Okay.
There was an odd sweet smell on the
Okay.
property that I had noticed when we got it, but I didn't connect the dots till later. So when we bought the house, in the backyard, there's some nice windows along the back wall of the house, and outside those windows there were these kind of taller, nice plants. I was like, oh, those are kind of nice. I think I'll keep those. But as I started plucking these weeds out of the ground, I started to see, those look a lot like those tall things by the windows. I wonder if those are connected. Sure enough, I go to like just rub the leaves of these taller little trees. It smells like Taco Bell beef. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So suddenly I kind of start to freak out. You start identifying something, you see it everywhere. Well, these things were everywhere, and I started like noticing them everywhere, and I can't keep them at bay. So I download this app that identifies plants based on like a leaf. Really cool. Free plug to Leaf Snap.
You just take a picture and
I think that's what it's called. Let me give this app its due credit.
This is not an ad. We're not doing
This is not an ad, but you should. Leaf Snap.
Leaf Snap.
Great app.
Okay.
Dude, beer and Celsius is making me pretty gassy. So I use Leaf Snap. You take a picture of the leaves. You can take pictures of flower, even bark, and it'll like really accurately tell you exactly what this thing is.
Okay.
And it shoots back Tree of Heaven. And I'm like, oh, well, that sounds absolutely lovely.
Sounds lovely, yeah.
I have been blessed with a property that is just rich with the Tree of Heaven. God has anointed this piece of land.
And that's what it smells like.
Well, and then I say read more on this little description. It says, extremely invasive species from China, exterminate upon sight. I'm like, oh, what?
Exterminate upon sight.
What is happening? So my first conclusion is that these small trees along my house, these like, slightly taller trees, had somehow found their way there and spread throughout the lawn. And if I cut them down, I'd be done with the problem. Great. I cut them down. I put weed killer where they had been. I had drilled holes into their like little stumps. We're talking like 2 inches in diameter. Problem solved. The smell persisted though. A couple months passed, and I'm like, I still smell this beef in the air, and no one's grilling. Yeah. Don't got a lot of grilling neighbors, but there is beef lingering in this air. I go out in the backyard. I'm looking for the weeds. I've gotten rid of most of them, and a revelation washes over me of pure terror as I gaze up into my neighbor's yard, and what has been the main primary source of shade in my backyard, a 90-foot monstrous behemoth tree in my neighbor's yard, is the mothership of the tree of heaven. This whole time it had been hanging over my house, and I didn't really connect that it looked like,
Yeah, it's such a different scale.
Yeah, it kind of changes how it looks. But sure enough, massive 90-footer that's hanging over my yard. I can't do anything about it. It's in my neighbor's yard. And as I look closer, this neighbor has really neglected his yard, and his whole house is just completely overrun by this tree because it spreads so aggressively underground. He probably has, I'm not kidding, probably 1,200 of them growing in his backyard. And I'm talking like trunk size this big to that big. Just, it's a dense, thick forest.
Yeah.
So, and he's not going to do anything about it. And this is the guy who like has guns and cameras pointing outside of his windows. So I'm not messing with it. I'll just wait till he dies, and then I'll burn it down.
And that's still to this day?
To this day.
Okay.
So since then I've landscaped my yard. It's nicer now. And now that I have like thick grass sod down, it does a pretty good job at keeping the sprouts out.
And what's your best message for homeowners, renters, anyone who has these? I have them in my fucking property right now.
Yeah, you have them. Like I said, that's how I found my way here. I was like, well, there's a smaller one. Them? They got bigger and bigger, and sure enough.
Did you sniffed it out?
I sniffed it out.
Thought it was a Taco Bell.
Cracked a window. You follow the scent of Taco Bell, and you're gonna find the mothership. Apparently, they're very aggressive toward home foundations. They'll crack your foundation. They'll spread into your crawl space, and they'll shatter the concrete under your house. So, Google it, familiarize yourself with it, and
who do you talk to? Is that an arborist? Who would?
I don't know. Apparently, the only way to kill it though is to cut them down, drill holes deep into that stump, and pour Roundup into it. Like literally drench it in chemicals. So, it's brutal.
I've heard it. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Also, an injection of Roundup or whatever Maybe that's what you're talking about.
An injection?
I don't know if you can do that.
Injection?
Yeah. An
Oh, like give it like a vaccine?
Although I don't know if you can. It's not like they have veins. I guess you can't. Oh, do they? I don't even know.
I don't think trees have veins.
Okay. We're finding out just how stupid I am. No, that's cool. I mean, do you have anything else to say about it? Because I have a nice segue to maybe some of your products we could talk about.
No.
Just stay vigilant.
But if you're short on like a Southwest seasoning, if you're at dinner and you don't have the what's that classic taco seasoning? It comes with the blue cap. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't. I know Mrs. Dash. I know.
Just go ground up some Tree of Heaven, team, and it'll do the exact same job.
Okay. So it's a culinary use as well.
Yeah, it's actually highly sought after and expensive. So I have a little business in the works.
Okay, so yeah, that's my segue. Well, yeah. If you have a business based around that, that's great. I was just thinking, in areas like this, maybe if you're an entrepreneur, this could be something to get into, to stomp these things out and
that's not a bad idea.
Eradicate them.
As Andy knows, I am a notorious entrepreneur. I have a lot of really solid business ideas, and one of them is, let's bring.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it. I want to ask you about Tia's and whatever else you got.
Well, let's bring the rich heritage of Hispanic spices into America. Let's make those American made, because that just tracks for me. Bring ethnic foods, originate on American soil. So this business idea is to make a luxury collection of spices. They come like in very nice packaging. Think Apple.
Okay.
But for like beef seasoning.
Okay.
I think that's an untapped market. Adobo, chicken.
And this would be like a storefront as well. You go in there and just like a little eyedropper.
I think the brick and mortar locations would be pretty limited. I think we'd probably start with one.
Okay.
With maybe like a wait list that's open like only.
Nice. It's like a pop up.
On like during like a lunar eclipse or something.
Okay.
Keep it exclusive. But yeah, it'd primarily be available online, shipped to your door.
Nice. I like that. Well, how about this is one of many marketing business ideas. But what about I actually think this is a good idea, this Smithsonian. That's just what I called it, but Smithsonian. Tell me like a elevator pitch about that real quick.
I mean, it kind of sells itself. Have you ever wanted to smell history? Step right in, folks. So instead of like seeing Abraham Lincoln's hat in a glass box, that's pretty cool. What if you could smell Abraham Lincoln's BO?
You could have said anything there, not BO, but yeah, that's one smell you could smell.
I mean, I've seen pictures of Rasputin's member. You could sniff that.
Yeah.
What would that smell like? Smell history, because memory is most, closely tied to our sense of smell.
Yeah.
So why would we go into a museum and look at things? We should be going in and breathing in our heritage and our history, right?
You're kind of limiting your senses if you're not.
Totally. So I think, ultimately what I'd want this to evolve into is a 5 senses museum where you are feeling, hearing, smelling, and tasting Rasputin's penis all at once.
I think
living history.
Yeah, that alone is going to get people in the door.
I don't know how I'm going to acquire that piece of history, but yeah. I think
there's all sorts of technology.
It'll fall into place.
Yeah.
Once people
Apple's
understand.
coming out with a vision. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
So that's another one. I don't even know if this is an actual one of your entrepreneurial ideas, but the meats. I know this is also a comedy idea of yours, but like,
baggage
meat? You think there's market value in like you come into like, was it reused meats or was it?
Yeah. So this is all protected by NDA, right? Like
okay.
Viewers can't tap into my
we can
idea pool.
Censor your face or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I just mean I don't want them actually stealing my intellectual property.
Yeah. Well, you better have some lawyers, I guess. I don't know.
I'm lawyered up, team. I'm unemployed, but I have managed to keep some pretty spendy lawyers on retainer. So just so you know. Bag of schmeat is a sketch idea that my buddy and I have kind of had on deck for a while, where we're two, low IQ entrepreneurs who repackage like Hillshire Farms turkey and ham cuts into just Ziplocs and sell them out of our storefront, but in ounceage and amounts that are a better value for our customers.
Okay.
So bag of schmeat.
So you're feeling that in your pocket.
Well, like you go and you spend $6.99 on like 4 ounces of mesquite turkey. Come on. I'm looking for 5 pounds of that stuff. I'm trying to feed a family.
I see.
So I'm going to pay a much better, dollar per ounce at a bag of schmeat, LLC, than I would at a Safeway or a Freddie Myers,
It's kind of, it's like the Costco
philosophy. Approach to cold cuts.
Okay. I like it.
All rights reserved.
And these are all, like, if anyone is an investor out there and you want to get on the ground floor, talk to this man. We'll put his email or something up here.
My line is open. We haven't had a lot of interest yet, which is pretty surprising. But there's always tomorrow, and I'm just waiting for the right, person to see the light bulb go off, because opportunity awaits, friends.
Yeah.
Bag of schmeat.
Is there any other business ideas you want to talk about? Otherwise, I was going to ask you about bellies. We can talk about that for a second. I mean, we don't even have to, but I figured you love them so much, and kind of almost.
I had some on the way over. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had good couple handfuls of bellies.
I'll be honest. I almost forgot about bellies until like I started working with you. I was like, oh yeah, these are awesome. And
well, one of the things growing up in the East Bay in California is you're within, a quick drive of the Jelly Belly factory. So all kids of the East Bay know the Jelly Belly factory. That is a staple birthday party event, summertime activity. You drive out. It's in the middle of like oil town, just dead marshes. But there's like 2 places next to each other. It's called Scandinavia, which is a mini golf complex.
Okay.
All time.
Also a country, right?
Well, first and foremost, it was a mini golf complex in Northern California in the boonies, and then a few countries in Northern Europe.
Oh yeah, it's like a collection.
They decided to co-opt that name into their kind of But and then there's the Jelly Belly factory, and they do tours, really good tours. I'm talking 5-star. These tour guides, they like ship them in from LA and Hollywood. There's a long casting process, really rigorous. George Clooney got his start as a Jelly Belly
trying there
tour guide. Yep.
And like, what is it about them that's? I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say it's just a jelly bean. And
oh God, Andy,
I'm sorry, I don't know.
I thought this was like a respectable program.
We don't have any like agreement with
a jelly bean.
There.
A jelly bean is something like any damn company could just whip together with some sugar in a pan. A belly is more of a gourmet experience. A belly is like your Michelin star bean. In fact, I do think they have Michelin stars. They have a little cafe restaurant attached to the factory.
Oh.
I think it's called like Belly Time or something like
Belly
that.
Time.
And I think they do have 3 Michelin stars.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that.
There's like the Rolls Royce of.
You can get like a slice of pizza in the shape of a belly.
Ooh. Okay.
Like a grilled cheese in the shape of a belly.
Okay. That's high end stuff.
Yeah, a lot of famous chefs got their start there. What was I saying?
I mean, yeah.
Why bellies?
Yeah, just however.
Well, they have 49 flavors, and all of them are spot on. I have to say, like, they get their flavors.
Yeah.
Their flavor science is otherworldly. So
if you're put your favorite flavor in the comments, by the way, if you want.
Yeah, drop your favorite flavor in the comments. We'll judge those pretty hard. There's only a couple good answers.
What's yours?
Okay, well, it's a little childish. I do love watermelon.
Okay.
What they do with the watermelon is they do a green casing around a red center, so it looks like a little watermelon. And the flavor is impeccable too. So I think that's always been my favorite.
Okay.
But I'll also go for a Dr. Pepper.
I don't even think I knew they had that one. That's good.
It's a great one.
Yeah. Well, partnership with.
And then a classic Very Cherry would be my third place.
Very Cherry. Okay.
Kind of their flagship belly.
How do you feel about the popcorn, the notorious popcorn?
The buttered popcorn?
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I wouldn't put it in my pantheon. It's not on my belly Rushmore. But it's a solid belly. You get in a rhythm of eating them, and like you got to kind of, when you jump to savory from sweet, it's a little bit of a shock to the nervous system, and you don't want to overstimulate. Bellies are very potent as is, so you don't want to OD, is what we say in the belly community. And a buttered popcorn can really
put you over.
Yeah, it can knock you on your ass if you're not ready for it. So
I'm learning a lot here about bellies. Let's talk about since you're wearing the shirt, let's talk about Lord of the Rings for a second. I mean, obviously you're representing here.
Yes.
Are you on Team Sauron? Tell me about like your how'd you fall in love with this series? And you're probably the biggest Lord of the Rings nerd that I know, and I'm not trying to make an insult to you, but I've learned a lot from you just being around you, and it made me appreciate the series more. Let's talk just for a few minutes.
Yeah, I think I grew up not in like a overly protected household, but like pretty like cautious parents when it came to like what movies and stuff I watched. And that was sort of right on the line. So I actually didn't watch the trilogy until I was like maybe 5th grade.
Okay.
So a little older. I couldn't see them in theaters. I was too little, according to them. Which in hindsight I kind of agree with. They're actually
kind of dark.
They're pretty intense. But I think what happened is I watched them at like just that little sweet spot of life where like you're both inspired and you're seeing the world through wide eyes, and like the super formative like identity crafted portion of living as a child.
Okay.
I think I just watched them right in the right spot to where like I just wove them into myself and like what I considered my own creative spirit and stuff. I'm taking this in a serious direction, but I think that's why I feel so attached to them.
Yeah.
I hadn't read the books. I had read The Hobbit, and I'd watched the animated Hobbit, the really trippy, like mushroom fueled Hobbit.
I've seen them. Yeah.
But yeah, I just fell in love with those movies big time, and I watched the appendices, like all the extra behind the scenes footage of the trilogy, which if you haven't seen, it's unlike any other behind the scenes footage for, you know, any production. It's like it's its own experience, really. So I'd highly recommend that if you're a fan in any way of the films. But it just kind of tied me even further to like the cast and the crew and the experience in New Zealand, and so I just fell in love. And since then, I've, you know, read the books many times, just kind of like learned as much as I can about, you know, Tolkien's world, and appreciate him as sort of one of the like pioneers of fantasy and fiction in general, and just you know, his ability to craft extremely sophisticated, deep worlds, and how the payoff of that work behind the scenes is felt even by casual viewers when watching something. The confidence and history kind of just bleeds through, whether intentionally or not. If you have a story that's sort of supported and like has a foundation of other stories behind it, I really like that, even though it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gotta be like one of the best, I guess you'd say, contemporary authors of
Yeah, I'd say
our time.
I don't know.
Not really our time, but a little before our time. But
Yeah.
definitely the movies, like I'm like, for me, it's like one of the most practical, you know, good uses of practical and like good effects, and they still hold up. And yeah, I know we both hate the Hobbit trilogy. Everyone watching this probably does. And
I can appreciate a watch through for fun, like if I'm bored. It's still like there are some thrills,
entertaining sometimes.
Yeah, but it is pretty brutal. Sadly,
yeah,
shouldn't be 3 movies, maybe 2. Maybe
I would definitely agree with that. I know I've had some fun times with you shooting. I've seen you up on a roof, like barefoot and stuff in the rain, trying to fix sound. I believe
just for
at
fun.
the time. Yeah,
just because I was
he was
ready
just
to
doing
live
that.
life. Yeah, took all my clothes off.
But are there moments like that where I wasn't around that's kind of fun and
Like a memory?
Yeah. I just love production, and there's a lot of memories involved. And
I was thinking, because you put together a supercut of Skits of Sawyer, and it probably didn't even use like half of everything.
There's a lot more.
But I was watching that and just realizing how many, you know, little shorts we've made, and it's just obscene how many. So I'm trying to think of like one that stands out.
It's okay if you don't too. I'm also curious, like, is that something you want to pursue professionally? Because you're kind of at a point in your life where it's like, you have other talents. You could do music. You could do
I would love
a lot of creative things.
I'd love to stay in, visual storytelling, video production, if possible.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll ever like hop over to the industry, like where you've been and you have reps and I don't.
That's very generous of you, but
well, you do. I mean, you've worked in TV, you've worked on shows, you've worked, you know, for news. So like you've seen behind that curtain in a way I have not, because I've only been in the private world, and or school.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much easier to achieve that level of polish though nowadays. And like I said, you do it all the time, I think.
Yeah, true.
With your own production.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I hold myself to a very high standard, and my standard is crafted by the work of like the real auteurs, right? I'm watching the best of the best, and I feel like I have to replicate that, and so I will find ways to get there.
Yeah,
you know, be it through just like being resourceful or just tricky with how we frame things and light things, and like, or in post, I'll just like absolutely abuse the footage until it looks the way I want it to look. I do have some pretty high standards, and that's like a bittersweet thing, because I'll get frustrated because there are limitations on both like budget and my experience, which is mostly just through experience. I've never had great mentors. No offense to anybody who has mentored me as a filmmaker, but like I did not come up in any traditional.
It's understandable,
way, especially since I kind of bailed on the film school thing. So. there is a little bit of a frustration as I run up against that ceiling of what I'm actually capable of doing. And it's always a good place to remind myself, like, well, what are you actually doing? You're trying to make a fun or compelling story that like reaches people and like leaves some kind of mark. You're not trying to like impress their eyeballs first and foremost. So separating sort of the visual art from the storytelling art, and those sort of kind of inform each other, and you remind yourself back and forth, it's important, but also we're trying to do this. So that's always a way to move forward and is encouraging. I don't know how I got here in this answer. What did you ask me?
I'm just curious, yeah, like, because I feel like you could do so many roles like in creative, and
yeah,
it's hard to pick one. I've always had to struggle with that myself. People like, you do all this stuff. Do you want to focus on one of them? And it's like, I can't really. It's people expect you to do like everything now. I feel like so, but it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of like little cracks and crevices in the world where you can be a jack of all trades for money. Mm-hmm. Like you can be an agency, you can be, a freelancer. Mm-hmm. But unless you're like a Hollywood director, I don't know how many spots there are or opportunities there are to actually apply your vision start to finish and get paid for it. Like it's not really a a widespread sort of job type. Mm-hmm. I think at the place we worked, it was just a very weird, perfect storm of, a business's product and opportunity for people to like take it and make it their own. And it led to a content team where we could make comedy content that was also e-learning content. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just lucked into that spot. But I would love to continue doing that in some way, shape or form. We'll see if it plays out like that. But
okay.
Yeah, I still love production. I still love.
And I'm just genuinely curious because, like I said, I've seen you do like music and a lot of different stuff, and I feel like you could do it all. So it's interesting to.
Call of mine. Have I told you about I don't know if I want to say this on here. This is
it's up to you.
Like top secret.
Yeah, it's gonna be seen by maybe 100 or 200 people. So.
That's true. Well, you never know, dude. You got the host charisma. You got the mullet. You got the stash.
Yeah. Well, in time, this will gather.
I think it take off. Yeah. Sooner or later, you're gonna have like Matt Damon on here. Someone's gonna scroll.
I'm not gonna allow him on.
Someone's gonna scroll down the episode list and see Ren Reed. They go, who? I guess I'm bored. I'll watch that. Okay. Yeah, I'll go for it. If someone takes this idea though, I'm gonna
okay. Okay. We're putting this as a copyright notice right now.
Copyright
Ren
notice.
Reed.
I don't think anyone has the time or the will to actually pursue this. But I do have a business idea that kind of brings all of my passions together. Okay. Passions we've talked about. Okay, let me back up a little bit. I think that today people are very much interested in paying for experiences, making memories, doing something odd or interesting or fun, something they can share with others, both in the moment or like on social. There's even a lot of businesses in Portland that are very like experience centric that I've seen open up, right? Like crazy museums or clubs or bars that are like very atmospheric or themed or like what have you.
What do you call it? The bar or the bike beer thing,
right?
That thing.
Especially up in the Northwest, like people are very experience driven. So a dream of mine is to buy some acreage. I'm talking like 80 to 100 acres of land, somewhere somewhat close to the Portland metropolitan area, wherever I end up, and to basically craft an ambiance like the Shire from The Lord of the Rings, and have one large central restaurant in the form of a hobbit hole in a hill. So
sounds kind of dirty, but
it would not be.
It's a good name.
If you'd read the first line of The Hobbit, you would know this hole is not dirty.
Okay.
It means comfort.
It's very comfy. Yeah.
It's cozy. It's clean. But there would be several businesses on the property, all like linked together through beautifully like landscaped paths and rivers and bridges and stuff like that. And you could hold festivals and concerts and farmers markets and grow your own food. And so it would serve as like a central restaurant and coffee shop and pub, but then also like as a venue space, rental space. And you could just do all these fun things with the land, right? In terms of gardening and food and events for like kids or classes and stuff like that. So
imagine if you did like I was talking to somebody today who's kind of like a Ren Fair. What if you, I mean, it's not only your name, but what if you did like like Sauron's dudes are coming in and just hacking people down, and that's part of it.
Yeah, you could do a lot of that, like LARPing. I'm not going to participate, but I'll take your money if you want to hold a LARPing event at my
if you want to
medieval
rent
grounds.
it for a day. And yeah, no, I genuinely do think that's a cool idea. It'd be very expensive, but it'd be pretty. And
the startup cost would probably be significant, but if executed right, and that's where like my passion kicks in, because it's like if I oversaw this, I know I could make this thing work. Like I know people would come. It wouldn't be tacky. It wouldn't be like cheap and corny. People go and pay for the Enchanted Forest.
Yeah.
For the love of God, which like God bless them. I know they're a family business who've been around forever. That place is.
It's not
real rough.
Yeah.
Like people go honestly, because it's like a staple.
I've been hearing recently it's been making like a comeback, which is interesting.
Yeah, and people love to go experience things like that.
Yeah.
As like cheap as it is. So if it was done really well and people feel like they were escaping into like a world, I just think it would work.
I'm down with that idea.
Don't take that.
I have.
They will actually hunt you down if you take that.
Yeah. He's got patents pending on that. I have a couple more questions.
Hit me.
One, I'll do this one first because the last one I kind of ask everybody, or I'm trying to. But so on Monday, the guy who's coming in is my old creative director, Ben. And I had this idea I was telling Tyler, who's sitting right there.
Oh, to the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's coming on separately, and I was thinking it'd be funny if you came back and he came back, and it's like my two old creative directors.
Face off?
One, and you can both talk about how shitty of an employee I was, and but one is older than me and one is a little younger than me, and it'd just be interesting. And if you're down to do that, we can.
Well, I'd love to a creative director who came by that title properly, and not as like a 12-year-old.
No.
Who stumbled into the role.
I think you're equally qualified because he kind of dubbed himself that it was his own business, so he's just like, I am the creative director, and he's a talented guy.
This guy's an asshole.
I like Ben, but
Ben and Ren.
I think you guys are both. Yeah, Ben and Ren. I think you guys are both. The interesting thing is we have to do this now that I think about it because he is very also into his hair, but he's like a silver. He's got the silver young look. He's got silver hair.
Fox.
And he gets compliments. I've seen him get compliments from women like on the street. And but anyway,
my gosh, you're just like getting the like caveman in me riled up right now in a competitive way. I'm like, I got to beat this dude's hair.
But we should do that, and we'll do like a creative director episode.
I mean, if you were to evaluate like the creative value, not that you can measure creativity, but of the names Ben and Ren, Ben is pretty bland. Sorry, Ben.
Way more common. That's for sure.
Ren, on the other hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sings with a creative spirit.
And you are not even lying. You're the only Ren that I know, aside from fictional characters. Some are women.
That means more to me than you'll ever know.
Some are cartoons.
Even Stevens and Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Both from a similar time period, too.
But yeah, we should do that.
All right. Yeah,
if you're down.
Happy to come back.
I'll ask him too on Monday because he's coming in.
Happy to drive through the 12 neighborhoods that I had to navigate to get back here.
Yeah.
It was a very odd route. Yeah.
If you find yourself here, we're sitting in my living room, but it's a path to get here.
You go through like a very old, nice heritage neighborhood, and then you're back on a highway for a minute. And now you're in a new neighborhood. It's like, why isn't there just a highway?
And then you might see a man jerking off for no reason. I saw that like a couple days ago when I was driving home.
You're kidding me.
I was with actually a coworker of ours after a hike.
No one jerks off for no reason. There's a
reason.
Yes. There was a reason.
I mean, I think this man was on drugs, but
we may never know the reason, but he had a good reason.
He was having a good time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so now.
I'll look for that. I'll use that as a landmark and the smell of the taco beef.
Yeah.
To navigate. That's my compass.
Triangulate my position.
Wanking man, Taco Bell beef.
Yeah.
Are my North Stars.
I kind of tell people that. I'm like, I could just look at that.
I could just close my eyes.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't see the wanking.
You can maybe hear it.
Maybe I could hear it. Depends on how violently he's going at that, snapping one off.
I think this man was sitting on a bucket, but it was interesting. I should have videoed
multitasking.
It. Yeah. So this is what I'm asking everybody. We kind of got into the Northwest before, but what's your like favorite thing up here? It could be a landmark, could be a food place, product, one of your own businesses, maybe a person, just anything.
You say like these are actually formal businesses that I run. Smithsonian.
I want to leave it open, you know.
I want to know in the comments, team, what you would pay ticket price for a Smithsonian experience. Let's say there's like, we got 20 exhibits. An exhibit is like a collection of things. Never mind. 20 things to sniff. 20 sniffables, as we call them. What would you pay for that?
I mean, what if you could take it online? Then, yeah, subscription model for. Technology's not there, but we could
see some challenges.
We could do it. Okay. We were talking about scratch and sniff, I think. At one
you
point.
have like a mail order thing where you get a sample.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Your question. Well, my favorite thing in the Northwest.
Yeah, and take your time. You don't have to like.
Well, it may not be what you'd think. My favorite thing up here is probably my family's cabin.
I was just thinking you got a cabin.
And that makes me sound like some, elite socialite. But no, it's like a really tiny cabin that we inherited from my aunt who actually built it. But it's up kind of in the Washington Mountains a little bit. It's like east of, well, I don't want to give it away. But it's like an hour and a half from Portland.
Okay.
Up in Washington. And yeah, it's a great spot because my folks live in Seattle. And so it's like a nice family kind of meeting place between Portland and Seattle. So we do a lot of like holidays there together. And it's just an easy getaway, like a quick, hour 15 on a weekend or whatever. And it's near like a lake. And it's on this nice forested acreage. So you feel really out there. And it's really just like a cabin, like what you picture with a cabin.
Yeah.
It's not very bougie or anything like that. There's Wi-Fi, but
okay.
It's just a really cool escape. And so that's probably one of the great, privileges of living up here is being close to that and having that as like a nice getaway when needed.
Do you think there's something about the Northwest that's like, I don't know. I think it's like nothing special because I've lived here my whole life, but I think people without an outside perspective, like if you've lived in a couple other states and there's more appreciation for it. And because like I go to the East Coast and I'm like, God damn, it's beautiful out here, and everyone else like from the East Coast is like, no, it sucks out there, and like it's nice out here, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's all context. I think we do get blind to it. Like I think I feel already a little blind to it, but if you put yourself in the shoes of a tourist or a stranger who sees this kind of biome for the first, it really is unreal. Our access to mountains and to waterfalls and to the coast and the unique characteristics of the coast here where like evergreen forests slope into the Pacific. Mm-hmm. And there's large intertidal rocks jutting out of the waters. Like it's something you just don't see anywhere else. It's so like mystical. And then, access to like wine country and Mount Hood and the slopes of these huge fantasy looking mountains. And I just went on a hike last weekend to Lewis Falls, and it's just like unbelievable. You feel like you're almost in Yosemite. Yeah. So you're within an hour drive of so many different absolute visual wonders that it's really a unique place. And you have an actual huge city, Portland, which is a hub for food and for drink and culture. I think it's a great place. The weather is a bittersweet. We have like 5 months of perfection, and then the rest of the year is pretty.
Yeah.
But if you can come to appreciate at least part of that season of wetness and dreariness, then it's a great place to be. And
we could spend maybe a few minutes talking about something in there that you didn't mention, which is a squatch. I mean, that's unique. I think that's unique to the Northwest. Maybe not. I don't know. You know more about them than I do.
Well,
you know him personally.
Northern California would qualify.
That's true.
I don't know if you can group Northern California.
That's not really
Northwest. I don't know, maybe Redding.
Yeah.
Probably not. Humboldt.
Those are kind of like the south of the country as we know it. That's kind of like the southern squatches.
Can I tell you about a camping experience I've had?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you see a squatch?
So I've gone squatching.
Okay.
My family takes squatch culture very seriously. So I don't want to see any comments.
Your whole family?
Hating on this. Yeah, okay. Some of my family.
Okay.
My uncle in particular got very deep into the squatch world. So much so that he had an incident on his property close to my family's cabin at the time before they moved. That was the family that moved. And, they had a very rural spot. And one evening after a snowfall, my uncle noticed some footprints out in his very large, sprawling kind of field. It was short grass. and there had been a snowfall. And so he saw these footprints, and they just looked odd to him. And he's like, what the heck? Who was walking in my backyard? And he happened to have a microphone running because he's a weirdo.
Okay.
He's a weirdo.
Well,
So
it's like one of those like animal recording things.
Yeah, he just has it running on his balcony. And so these footprints came from the woods, and they beelined straight toward this large tree in the middle of the field, and they beelined out to the woods adjacent. And they were about like 7 feet apart, and they didn't stagger. They were just in a straight line, which apparently is in line with a lot of squatch footprints.
Okay.
And he knew that. And he's like, oh my gosh, I need to report this. So he calls the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization, which is the most formal institution there is.
We can put the number up. Yeah.
Yeah, please put the number up. If you have any information, please. And they take this extremely seriously. They send a crew out, and they hook him up with like state-of-the-art military-grade thermal cams and everything to install in his house to monitor his property in case there's more activity. And so he installed all this stuff. And of course, nothing happens again in the coming months, and they take it back. But it got him really fired up. Sorry. And he became like a hardcore squatcher. So we'd go on these camping trips with him out to like hot spots. So there's like Morton, which is a city out in eastern, middle Washington. And then there's a spot called Onion Lake.
I've heard of that, I think.
Which is like one of the hottest Bigfoot sighting spots in the world. And he's like, hey, we're going to go camp. I have some buddies who have actually seen Sasquatch here.
Okay.
They have stories. And I go, okay, let's do it. And so my dad, my brother, and I go on this camping trip with Uncle Scott and our cousin Christian. And I'm ready. I am ready to take the first official footage. Well, not a
okay.
We have the Patterson camera.
I was picturing you like with a shotgun
to take them down.
Yeah.
To make some burgers.
Yeah.
Some Squatch burgers. Very lean, I've heard.
But you had a camera or something. Yeah.
I did have my Canon with me. And we set up camp, and that night, first night, we go on like a little night walk. And we all have like night vision goggles on.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we're being very quiet, and we just kind of go on a trail, and my uncle's kind of like telling us what to do, and he makes some calls. I'm not going to do one because it's going to peak the mic, but look up Sasquatch calls if you want to.
Maybe we can drop it in. Yeah.
Drop it in. Maybe like a little sound effect. I'm going to give a quick beat here so that we can add a sound.
Okay.
That was a Sasquatch call. Sorry that I'm adding to your post-production.
I'm just guessing I'm like, ooh, it's terrifying.
Terrifying.
Okay.
Chilling.
Yeah.
And my uncle makes one, and we hear something come back. The exact like same resonance. And I'm spooked. I'm like, okay, I was kind of here as a joke.
Was it like a good distance or?
It's probably, half mile.
Okay.
Come from like the mountain. And I'm like, you know what? This is like a Bigfoot hotspot. I bet other campers are here doing the exact same thing, and they're just freaking being assholes and doing the thing back. Or they thought we were one, and this is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. No one else was at these campgrounds. We hear this, and I'm like, oh my God, that's actually terrifying. Then my uncle starts hitting sticks together because he's like, so what they do, and I'm just taking his word for it. Okay. So what Sasquatch do, by the way, there are a lot of Sasquatch, right? There's not just one. This is not some mythical beast. This is a little species that's very reclusive, that has somehow survived and evolved, and they don't like humans, so they intentionally stay away. What Sasquatch do when a camp or humans are nearby their residence is they'll approach the camp and they'll communicate to each other by clicking sticks together.
Okay.
Like
so
my uncle starts doing this. He gets 2 sticks and he starts like hitting a tree to make this little knock sound. And we don't hear anything at first. We walk a little bit more. He does it again. We don't hear anything. And then he does it and we hear a response. And now I'm getting kind of really spooked out because like we're way away from roads. Like we had off-roaded quite a bit to get here in the first place.
Is there a cell phone service?
No, nothing. Okay. Nothing at all. So I'm starting to freak out, and I'm like looking around with my thermal goggles, and I'm like seeing like animals, and I'm freaking out because these little hot spots everywhere. And then in a clearing, I shit you guys not. I shit you not. Probably like 300 feet away, so about a football field, in a clearing through the woods, I see what looks like a very large human lope across the clearing with my thermals, and then it's gone. And I'm like, I'm frozen. And I asked my brother, did you see that? And he said, I saw that. I'm like, is there someone out here trolling us? I don't know. It could have been a bear walking on its hind
Was
legs.
it was going towards you or
Just
horizontally?
Horizontal.
Okay.
Just through a clearing.
Interesting.
And I tell my uncle, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw something. I don't know what it was. And he makes another call. And from the direction I saw it, it makes a call back. I'm like, okay, there's someone out here like actually trolling us. And my uncle hired them, or Sasquatch is real. So I believe Sasquatch is real. That night, fun story. Sorry, almost done. That night we go to bed, and in the middle of the night, I have a dream that a volcano erupts. Odd. With like a big explosion, Pompeii style.
Okay.
And I wake up and everyone is awake and freaking out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, did you hear that? And I'm like, no, but I just had a dream that like a volcano erupted. They're like, something just boomed near us. And I'm like, oh, so that was incorporated into my dream somehow. And we get our flashlights out and we're walking around, and about 100 feet from our campsite, a giant tree had fallen. I'm talking probably like 9 to 10 feet in diameter.
This is like a 100-year-old tree.
Huge tree. Like you have to climb up onto the trunk on the ground. Had fallen probably 100 feet from our campsite and just absolutely like thunderously smashed the ground and shaken us all awake.
Wow.
So I like to believe that Sasquatch flicked that sucker over just to send us a message, you know?
Okay.
You're getting a little too close there, friends.
Do you but that's interesting because I've never heard that story. If that happened to me, or if that was even like, if I was in that crowd of people I'd be like, okay, it's one of these two things. Like you said, like it's
a person.
It's either a hoax or it's a real thing.
In hindsight, it was not my uncle like paying someone to pull wool over our eyes. He's just not that kind of guy. He was like actually very serious about this.
He wants to find him.
So there's a chance someone just lives out there and like just gets their rocks off trolling people who camp there. Definitely possible. But it was a big thing I watched lope across that clearing.
It was a large moving thing.
And it was thermal vision. And so you see heat signature. And so you can't, like you could wear something, but your heat signature is more or less going to be the shape of your body.
Yeah.
And it was a big boy. So unless it was a bear.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Freaky, dude.
I actually didn't know you'd had a sighting.
Yeah, I heard stuff and I saw something.
Yeah.
And I could have, been, hallucinating it.
Well, he's gonna come on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I do want to get. Maybe your uncle would be good, but I want to get like some kind of expert.
Well, I got some plugs.
You know what I'm saying? Like somebody who spent a lot of time out in the woods and waiting for this motherfucker to come around.
Yeah, dude.
Because that's like one of the only unique Northwest like cryptozoology.
I told you the whistle story, right? From the.
You might have. You can tell it real quick.
Well, really fast. There's a show called Finding Bigfoot. It's super corny. It's a couple like middle-aged dudes who like pretend they're gonna find him every episode. I think it's on Discovery. Probably not running anymore. But they end every episode or like commercial with a cliffhanger. Like, was that something? And then obviously it's not. It's like a rabbit.
Potato chip bag.
Yes. Anyway, there's a character on there called Bobo. It's his actual like God-given name. Okay. Bobo. He looks like there's nothing behind his eyes.
Okay.
Big dude, long hair. And he has this like whistle he plays to like communicate with Bigfoot. Anyway, we're camping, and this goes to show how like we're going to the same spots as these other lunatics. My dad goes off the trail to pee, and he's like looks down at his pee stream, and he's peeing on this whistle, and he's like, that looks like the freaking whistle we just watched on that show. Sure enough, my uncle calls in to the production, and they're like, yeah, Bobo lost his whistle. We'd love to retrieve it. He cares about this thing a lot, and we just left out the fact that my dad was
became a piss whistle.
Straight up pissing on it. Yeah.
Wow. Maybe that's the magic to the whistle. I don't know.
Yeah, soaking it in urine.
Or maybe we can get Bobo on and ask him about it.
I bet he's available. Yeah. I bet he would be very happy to come by.
That's cool though. I totally almost spaced asking about Sasquatch. So I'm glad we got some stories there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If anyone has any follow-up questions, leave them in the comments. I'll address them.
Well, yeah. I think I'm gonna wrap it up, but unless you want to talk about anything, we have time. But
no, dude, I really appreciate the invite. I'm honored to be one of the first guests on this illustrious show. I hope it takes off. I hope you get some traction.
And if you know anyone who wants to come on, let me know.
I know some.
There's a lot of people, and it's kind of getting to be. I gotta sort them out, but
yeah. Yeah.
I want a good mix of people on here. So if you know anyone good, just.
I'll think through it, and I'll send them your way. This is a fun setup. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and maybe you'll see Ren again if we do the creative director thing. And
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks, dude.
Ren versus Ben.
Thanks for coming by.
I'll take him down.